sometimes I mumble, so if that happens during the class, you'll raise your hand and say, I can't hear you, and I'll adjust. Deal? All right. We've got a lot of stuff to go through. I know we have 8 players. I'd like to prepare you that I'd like to go a little longer for this first class, maybe an hour and 10. The reason for that is that if we don't, then I don't want any of you who are playing to feel like you're on an assembly line. I'd like to give you an appropriate amount of personal attention and enough space so you feel like you get something out of this versus just kind of going through something fast that may be less impactful. Would that be okay with you? Can I grab like 10 more minutes of your time today? And then the second session we can stay on track. Okay. Now, if that doesn't agree with some of you, then do what you need to. If you need to eat right at, at 1, then you should eat right at 1. Maybe you have blood sugar issues, then you should do that. Okay. But the reason is because I'd like to talk to you and play for you before we have people play for me. Can I get a sense of who's going to be playing for me in this hour, though? 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Do you have a sense of what order you'd like to go? Would you like to negotiate, or was it already pre-prescribed?
Already, so
great.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I want to talk to you first, other than just kind of getting to know you, is give you an umbrella or a lens through which most of the information I'd like to share with you, even when you're playing, resides under. So I won't be repeating stuff per each person, although I don't know that much, so there'll probably be some repeating in between people. Succinctly, I've been playing for a long time. I'm 52. I started cornet when I was 4 and a half, harmonic when I was 3, and it's been a really interesting journey. And a very privileged journey. And only now do I'm hallucinating that I'm starting to understand things, and I'm sure 20 years from now I'm like, he didn't know anything when he was 50 either. Because I know now at 52 I didn't really know much when I was 30, and definitely not when I was 20. I knew more when I was 6 than I did when I was 30, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is music is something it's a real privilege to be a part of. The fact that professional musicians exist is an oddity. It's really weird. It's amazing. I'm really, and if you're looking to get into music, you'll find being a professional musician is an amazing thing to do, except it's weird that we would get paid to do something we love. In my case, teach and perform, which I feel like are the same things. We have to work really hard for it, but to get paid for it is really weird, and it's actually not really what music's about. And the more we can remember that, the more we will be successful in our profession, or successful today perhaps playing for me in front of your peers or those kind of things, because as we get better and better on our instruments, just the fact that you're here means you're really good to begin with. So we're talking about a room full of experts, yourselves, me, your teachers included. Perhaps a junior and senior expert, but still we're experts, meaning that you've spent a large portion of your lives pursuing excellence on your instruments. And if you took that instrument and you put it in the hands of anyone just walking out in the street, they could not accomplish what you have been able to accomplish on the instrument. But that accomplishment, that lens of accomplishment, is actually greater than you think. What we think are mistakes are also accomplishments. You wouldn't be able to, I'll show you a typical something we call a mistake. Here's a real famous trumpet mistake. Nightmares, right? So that's one version of that mistake, right? It's a weird room playing, huh? Here's a different version of that mistake. As written, right? So we tend to think of it, our development level, because we've been pursuing excellence and we've been practicing multiple hours a day and dozens of hours a week for multiple years of our lives. This means we're an expert. The definition of an expert. That's the amount of time spent on here on your instrument as an expert. We tend to think about things as right or wrong, or we played the right notes or we made a mistake. Except, what I'd like to maybe you could reconsider for me is what I just showed you were not mistakes. They were 3 choice paths with very predictable results, right? Again, if you're a trumpet player and you've been struggling with that mistake, right? Well, again, you couldn't put that trumpet in the hands of anyone in the real world who don't play instruments. They could not accomplish what I just did or what you did that we call mistakes, right? And through this lens or through this way of thinking, we can recapture a lot of our power. We can re-empower ourselves. Maybe we can re-examine what we call confidence, but basically ownership of all our hard work. And at your level, already junior experts at the very least, the way we proceed from here on is not so much the acquisition of new skills, but understanding how to combine the skills we have, perhaps refine the skills we have, into more refined combinations with more, let's say, consistent results that we really want. So it's much, so what I'm trying to say is that what you want is way closer than you think. It's not easy, but it's all attainable. There are probably different levels of, feelings of one's own talent in the room. Oh, I'm talented, or I'm not as talented as other people. That doesn't matter. Talent ain't worth anything. It's really great if we had talent coming up, but mostly it actually gets in our way. Because we start thinking that we have to rely on talent, or we don't have talent, so we're lacking in something. All that separates you and a profession in music, if that's what you want to go toward, just excellence in music, is only acquisition of skill and smart, earnest work. That's it. It's all attainable. The information is there, and all you have to do is follow the steps. Now, there are no A, B, C, D steps that work for every single person exactly the same way, but you have to find your own combination. And that's part of being creative, that's part of being a musician, and it's all attainable. Right? So just keep that in mind. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind is the way we partner with music. And so I began by saying, well, I started when I was really young. Many of us started when we were young. The journey you may find yourself going through is that your relationship to music, capital M, has changed and will continue to change. So I'll just tell you about me because I can't tell you about you, but you'll tell me if maybe something I'm saying resonates with you. When I was young, because I had talent and I could play and I had a good ear and my parents were immigrants. They worked 80 hours a week and I learned the value of them providing lessons for me. I just watched how hard they worked and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to equal that amount of work, right? I got attention because I was good and I was young. So what I started learning was that music was about me. And that was fun for a while, right? And my whole social life revolved around that. As I aged, that's how I became popular in school, whatever that meant, or that's how girls liked me and how I related to girls. But it actually was a social event. And we experienced music largely as a social event all through high school, and then we get to college, and things change radically because all of a sudden we're focusing if you take music as a major or even a minor, then you're changing the nature of your relationship with music, and then there's a blockade that you'll hit, or maybe you've hit already. And some of this is expressed in nerves, some of it's expressed in anxiety, some of it's expressed, will I ever make it? Those kind of doubts, and we all have to go through that gauntlet of doubts. But what I'd like to offer you is if we can stay aligned with the true nature of music, capital M, then this whole path gets a lot easier. It's easy to say, I used to like to say music is about we, not me, and I don't think I made that up, but I think it's catchy. I'm not sure that really reaches into us the way I hope this would. Music is not about being a professional. Music is about community, right? So, having been around the world for most of my life, I've sat next to people who look like me, don't look like me, have the same religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs or dissimilar, have similar, what I would say is moral values, but in other parts of the world are very radically different, and they feel that that's their morality. And so music is something that has really allowed me to grow and to meet a lot of different people. And by doing that, realizing that my way is not the only way, or what I was taught that the only way was definitely not the only way. And so there are so many dividers in the world. And we're mostly taught to focus on the dividing factors. Some of them I mentioned, right? But mainly, if we look like each other, or if we think the same. Except music is a language that goes so deep that you can sit next to anyone and immediately make beauty in the world through this common language and this common pursuit of music, capital M. And here's the difference between we musicians and what we do as professional musicians or amateur musicians. We hear this as cliche and you're like, oh, I make the world a better place, but it's quite true. And when it happens and you see it happening and you realize you're part of it, it becomes quite profound. And we're going to get to the playing part in a second. I'm going to stop preaching at you, but I want to show you something that perhaps you can remember how to align yourself. Whenever you're in your practice room, you're on stage, and you're like, I'm struggling. Maybe you're struggling with your alignment with music. Are you doing things in partnership with music, or are you doing things that maybe go a little against the flow? Like, and for me, it was, usually when I have issues, and I still do, it's I'm making it about me and not about trying to make beauty through music. So here's how normal people think. Remember, we're not normal, we're musicians, and that's great. But normal people, usually it's a binary kind of thing, right or wrong, right? And so you'll have one party or faction saying quite loudly, or maybe even yelling, I'm right. I'm right. And then we have another party exhorting their opinion, which is the opposite, and they'll usually say no, negating the first party's opinion. They'll say, no, I'm right. And then they'll yell at each other, and this is called war. Right? Musicians, we don't think about this as a disagreement. We call this dissonance. And we know that harmony requires dissonance for genuine beauty. So we take this, and we put this around. We know how to resolve dissonances. We know how to embrace the rub. We don't call that wrong. We just call that dissonance. And we know how to reposition the dissonance. Perhaps these two parties need to be equally seen, equally heard. So maybe not right next to each other, but maybe they become the anchors of it. So we call that an inversion, right? So we hear this. So we just put, this is an A, here's a B flat, we put the B flat down here. And now we got complex, beautiful harmony. Right? And these are all concepts that we've been learning passively in band growing up. Our band directors, and my band director Mike Teolis was a trombone player. He's still alive, just survived cancer this last year, still in touch with him, one of the most important people in my life. And as I age, I realized how important he was instilling these values in me and having patience doing that. What they've been teaching us is how to be a better human being. Again, we hear this cliche, but the more we investigate really what that means, the better your playing is going to get. So this is the buy-in, right? If you're finding yourself having trouble or you're not progressing the way you want to on your instrument, keep in mind that there's a larger force at play here. And how do we plug into that? And maybe it's not the same for all of us, but as soon as you start thinking about how to contribute to that, the path becomes so much easier and so much more meaningful and so much more enjoyable. Okay, that's the end of my speech, okay? But that's the umbrella through which I'm coming to today, and then we'll be talking about technical things, we'll be talking about interpretation, yes, but just know this is in the background, okay? All right, thanks for sitting through that. Who's gonna come up first?
Andrew is up first.
All right.
We welcome Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Where are you from?
I'm from Buffalo, New York. So, ways away from Wichita, Kansas. I'm going to be playing the first Beach 18.
Great. And who do you study with in Buffalo?
Alex Jacoby.
Do you know who John Nelson is?
I don't.
He's the professor at SUNY Buffalo, and was my colleague in my first job when I went to New York from my master's was with this group called Meridian Arts Ensemble.
I've heard.
And so he was my colleague there. He teaches at SUNY Buffalo.
Cool. Not far from my house.
Nice. And so, what do you? Are you ready in college?
I just finished my undergraduate.
Nice.
So
Where
I'm
was that?
at SUNY Fruita.
Nice.
So I'm student teaching this fall, and then I'm going on to do my master's.
So a
after that.
couple of years with, I'm forgetting his name.
4 years with Alex Jacoby.
Oh, so he came in right after his predecessor left for California.
Rod.
I'm trying to think of the name, but it just means not.
They've
really-
had a few teachers. There's a few trumpet teachers there. Alex has been there for like 20 years.
Great.
So,
So-
a while.
To be transparent, what I'm trying to do is connect with you
Gotcha. Yeah.
and set up an atmosphere where we're talking,
Yeah.
including when you play. Okay? Play some notes. Have you played in this room before?
Yeah.
All right, really nice. I see. Okay, two categories of things to talk about. I want to know about your goals, why you're playing the piece. I want to know about your approach, how you thought it through, and let's go from there.
Okay. So I'm playing this piece and starting to prep graduate audition materials, and most of the schools that I'm interested in, they require you to do 2 etudes. One has to be Charlier and something else. So I've been working on this.
So this is
Potentially.
kind of like your technical aid.
Yes, and I'm starting to hit it all now because during student teaching in the fall, I'm not going to be able to do trumpet as much as I can, so it's going to have to take a little bit of backseat. And then, so I want to try to get stuff as much as I can now, and then hit it again after that, so I'm ready for
I'm
auditions.
glad you mentioned that, because so when you're doing student teaching, then there's a whole kind of gauntlet you have to go
Yeah.
through. And so you'll have to do a lot of mouthpiece buzzing. If you prepare well enough, it's almost impossible, I think, to tread water while we're student teaching, but you can stop from sinking.
Right.
And that's the goal, right? and you'll be so tired, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I like your sound. Can I remind you that perhaps the most important technique is sound? And especially when we're playing technical stuff, like tuku-tuku stuff like this, the most important thing is sound. Right? So, what I hear what you want to do musically. I very much like it, and I need it more obvious.
Okay.
Right? I know what to listen for just because we're brass players, right? And we know what you're trying to do.
Right.
I want you to think about when you're performing this and sharing this with those people that you're auditioning for, what you're actually saying. Okay? I don't know how to make any of my stuff not sound cliche, so try to stick with me.
Sure.
Okay. Could we play the first 4 measures as a slurred ballad, please?
Sure.
In a different tempo.
Okay.
I want you to spin the phrase. I want this to be beautiful. I mean, this is an awkward and weird and athletic kind of etude.
Sure.
I want to hear you make it a melody.
Okay.
Good. It's a great start. Can you show me a little more variance in color, especially in the low notes?
Sure.
I love this one especially. Because you let go of it and then you came back into
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Before we go on, let's talk about, I think, what do you think the hardest part of this piece is? Starting it.
Starting it.
And are you about to point
I was
something?
gonna say this section just because.
Oh, that's just a finger buster. You can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. The tempo is sometimes that's the spot. I don't know for me.
You're spit attacking your first A.
Okay.
That's affecting your sound.
Okay.
Okay. So as you're deepening your approach to this piece, and I would hope that you keep going on the track you are, because I like it. I just want to add to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we find your best A sound?
Sure.
Okay. And so the way I'd like to do that is play first and just hold it. Good. So of all the sounds you just showed me, I would say you showed me about 6 different sounds. You like 2 of them a lot. They're kind of driven, right? And this is a driven, smaller sound. So let's find out a bigger sound. Are we doing this on C?
I'm B flat.
Can we maybe go? So what I'm trying to do is bring the resonance from my low C to my middle C to my A. Also. Better. I feel like you're playing the low C knowing that you have an A coming. So
Okay.
let's just play a low C. Better. Let's play keep some flow going and play like a ballad. Oh, now the resonance is creeping in. Can you hear the resonance in the tone? Remember, the most important technique is tone. I like it. The upper C is sharp compared to your lower C, and it's a little narrower. So there's something we can learn in what I'm showing you. When you're going down for the G, can you make it sound like you're going up for the C's again? I'm going to start down each time, so down. There it is.
Yeah,
So
it feels
we're
like it's
taking-
in a different spot.
Yeah, it is literally in a different spot. And this spot is where it resonates with your body and the horn, and you're not clamping on it trying to,
Right.
like jumping on a fire hose, right? And that's hard to do. You can do it, but it takes a lot of physical exertion.
Right.
And that's why the A at the beginning of this piece is difficult. It's not because the A is difficult. What specifically is difficult is playing an A with a thin sound with a spit attack is difficult. I would choose not to do that.
Gotcha.
I would choose to do something that I'm comfortable with, like that sound,
Right.
and I would choose it there. So, but we have to get there first.
Right.
You hear that sound? Yeah. So that sound I would listen to all day. The spit attack, not so much. I mean, you do the spit attack thing, it's just that I don't find that beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
I find that as a method of getting the note.
Right.
But maybe it's, if I told you you could play with your most beautiful sound and it's way easier than what you've been doing, would you take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's do it. Okay. Okay, so the way to do that is find the sound, slow ourselves down. I've slowed you down. We haven't gone past the first note.
Right.
And if you play the first note like I'm showing you, the rest of it becomes way easier,
Yeah.
right? Because it's all through the same kind of lensing. So let's find it again. And this is called scaffolding, never skipping steps. We hear about slow practice, but it's not metronomically slow. It's about going in steps, finding our way there, and then finding a way to, or then taking those ladders away and getting there right away. If that makes sense. So we're going to go. We're just going to re-attack it. Use your slide this time. Re-attack without resetting.
Okay.
One more time. You're doing well. That last attack I loved the most because it was less, there was more sound roundness in front.
Yeah.
So as you're thinking, we've got 3 minutes, but I'm going to shove a lot of stuff at you, and then you'll sit down and you'll think about what I'm saying to the other people and start doing it here. Often when we're younger, we are taught to use the tongue at the front of the note, which is true, except I would argue that when you're looking left to right at the note, if the tongue is separate, it's robbing us of the tone. Here,
Right.
right? That last attack you did was a little more like this. You hear tone first, but the tongue's there. It's just you have to look for it. It's kind of like this transparent cellophane almost,
Gotcha.
right? And so the tone is there right away. There's an attack to it, but it's bereft of tongue and filled with tone.
Right.
Can you copy that? That's better, but it took you 2 seconds to get to your tone,
Yeah.
right? So what I want you to do is A and B in your practice. Now, what do you notice in my rendition, other than I missed one?
It was way more melodic and like musical. It just sounded freer. You weren't as like strict to the time, but you still were. Like I don't know.
My time was pretty
Right,
strict.
no, it was like strict, but it felt like more. I don't know how to say it. It was just musical.
Great. So I'm gonna ask you to think about your language, and then we're gonna applaud, and you're gonna sit down. You did great. I know this is like, there's just a lot of things, it's the nature of our time together, okay? I like the way you were describing things that I just played, and instead of, mostly you were saying what I did versus describing what I didn't do, okay? So I want you to do it 100% one more time. I want you to describe what I did, maybe even tell me how I did it, because you know all of it already.
Okay. Well, the first note attack was obviously what we were talking about.
Round, deep tone.
Right. And
Great.
so that propelled forward, just like I feel like all the attacks after that were the same, and the sound resulted because of that.
Because I'm making them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm doing that on purpose, just like you are.
Right.
You're choosing, which is getting in your way a bit.
Okay.
It feels like you think you're maybe skating on ice a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. So you can choose to do something else.
Okay.
Skating on ice is an accomplishment.
Sure.
You're not beholden to it. You're not trapped there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what else did you notice I did? You said something about melodic.
Yeah, it was way more melodic.
What did I do?
You followed the contour like really in terms of dynamics. The contour was really apparent with your direction of the foot.
Thank you. I would simplify and say I ensured I played melodically.
Okay.
Yeah. And so can you. Because I slowed you down, we played the first 4 measures, and we played melodically.
Right.
And that's our strength. Music is about melody, mostly, right? So, and tone.
Sure.
And then everything else is ancillary, layered on top of it. Make sense?
Yeah.
So everything I was doing was purposeful, mindful, intentional. I wasn't playing perfectly. Rhythm was a little off. I can tell you which measure, and I missed 1 note. Did it bother you that much?
No.
No. Because it's a different intent. And so what I really want you to do is share and show in these auditions. If you go in and prove, which was kind of what I was talking about to open, like I got, and I still fall into this trap, I used to get into proving myself a lot. Because at a certain point, if the music is about me, then I have to play well to prove that I'm not a butthead, right? Like, because if I play not well, I feel completely crappy about myself. Still sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, but who has that experience? Yeah. And that'll get better. That's where we have our self-worth, and it's kind of, it's married at a certain point to how we play, right? And that leads us down a path that's not about we, it's about me. That leads us down as a path that's not what I showed you over here, versus playing melody, sharing melody. And what your university professors want to hear for your masters is not a guy coming and proving themselves, because does that guy then come into my studio and try to prove themselves against everyone else in my studio that has 11 first-chair all-staters? Right? How is that going to go? Well, not well, right? Right? So what will go well is someone who's trying to make music, who is a good citizen. You seem like a really nice guy, right? And so the more of that niceness and that genuineness you let shine through, and she's really trying to make melody and share instead of proof, it'll be 10 times better, 10 times quicker. You did great, and there are more levels to uncover. Okay, great.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
job. All right.
Let's have another round of applause for Josh.
You are Joshua. All right. You can do anything you want. But after you play the first time, I'm going to ask you to sit.
Okay. And how much should I play of this? I'm going to play the third movement of the Flanell trumpet.
So you can play until you feel like stopping. If it's too long, I can stop you.
Okay.
And then you got to figure out, how do I want my 15 minutes with Joe? Like, do you want want to get up and try to nail things? Do you want to get up and you want to try to do some work and show me where you need help? You want to do a combination of both? Like maybe get comfortable first and then you can guide me to the stuff that's like knocking me down.
I'm not really sure. I've like just started working on this recently, so.
Great, so it's in process.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, move anything you need to feel comfortable.
Can I play a few minutes?
Yes, please. Another nice sound. How are you feeling?
Good.
Great, you did great. I'm gonna stop you. You think there might be any chalk around? Do you see any chalk anywhere?
They throw it all out at the end of the year.
Okay, so on this piece of paper, there are a lot of staccatos, staccati. Okay. So brass players were hampered, hindered, handicapped, affected by staccato. Literally, staccato means separation between notes. The way we've been brought up in the band world, we see staccatos, staccati. It's not really staccati, I just think it's fun to say. We see that. We've been trained to do that. Tut, 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 which is what you do. Right? You change gears though when you play longer notes. We don't do that. So, think, does anyone eat Tootsie Rolls anymore? Okay. Yeah. So you know when if this is the note, the Tootsie Roll, right? And this is the beginning of the note. And you twist both sides of the Tootsie Roll. Now, while the body of the note is shorter, and it gets kind of scrunched, right? Versus if that's a tut, right? Tut. If you just have a little bit on the front, the body of the note remains deep, supple, beautiful. Kind of what we were just working on. So what if instead, Josh, or you go Joshua or Josh?
Joshua.
Joshua. Instead, think about this. I think one more. Okay. You understand the difference? Okay. In this way, we're defining staccato as just literally space between notes without any, let's say, negative implications on the tone or the beginning of the note. Want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay. So the beginning, and let's do it slow. You've been going. That's what you were doing, right? Okay.
So I guess this is a question. So from my perspective, it doesn't sound but like I know I've had this issue in the past, like the audience hears it shorter than I hear it. So as a player, should I like anticipate that and then play stuff longer than I hear it?
Well, I feel like you're on the right track. I want you to be more nuanced in vocabulary. Right. What I just described, what I did was describe the front of the note and the way you're ending the note. And I demonstrated for you, and it's also affecting the tone. Those three variables there. That's not short.
Yeah.
That's a way of making the note short. Right. So my answer to the first answer to your question is, are you recording yourself?
Yes.
How often?
Not as often as I used to.
That is a answer that does not empower you. So be more empirical. How often are you recording yourself?
Maybe like once a practice session.
Once a practice session. Maybe. So you see how I like specificity. Now my wife had to, German is my first language, English my second. My wife had to teach me how to, my French wife had to teach me how to say that. How are you feeling? It's a little weird to be up here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Isn't this what you want?
I guess. It's really quiet.
Yeah. How about so have you noticed that you're avoiding eye contact since you've been up here with me and everyone else here? Is that the way you are with your friends?
Actually, yes.
Yes. That's okay then. Do you find, so that's okay. Do you find that's working here?
No.
Okay, let's try something different. Make eye contact with you. Do you know anyone here? Raise your hand if you know Joshua. Okay. Keep your hand up and until he looks at you in the eye, and then you can put your hand down. Scan the room purposely, one person at a time. And as soon as you look at them, as soon as you catch their eye, then they'll put their hand down. And you'll do this for the whole room, and once the room is clear, we'll keep going. Embrace it, don't feel like it's silly, right? This is an exercise, embrace it. Even if it's not in your normal social nature, this is our job up here. So this is your alternate persona, or maybe it's part of your persona you've yet to embrace. One by one, you feel like you got all your, okay, so you're making faces like it's a little silly, but maybe stop the faces and look around again. I need 3 people over here. Okay. You can dismiss their hands again the way you did. Your face becomes softer. You look a little more friendly. How do you feel now?
Like my insides are exploding.
I love how honest you're being. Is that different than before?
No, it's worse than before.
Would you do me a favor and keep experimenting with me? Can you uncross your legs? And uncross your hands? And then the trumpet maybe just on, instead of crossing your torso. Now, look at 3 of your friends again. Keep breathing. This may be more important than trumpet, what we're doing. So one of the impediments to performing, which is sharing, is that we have to get used to connecting. Right? We live in a world that eschews connection. Phones are not connection. Never have been. Have you ever thought about when you're on a phone, you're not actually hearing the person's voice? You're not. It's a reproduction of the voice at a delay. It's not that person. I'm crossing. How are you feeling now?
I don't know.
Try to describe it. It's the same?
I'm like super shaky.
Great. Let that happen. To me, you don't look super shaky because I don't see you doing this, which has happened in the past. Not for you, I don't know about that. So our role as performers actually to connect with the people in front of us. So we can't go in depth given the time we have today. And I want you to on a regular basis, one of your practice sessions, at least once per week, is get your friends together, 3 people in the room, and do this, play for them. You've heard this before, you've avoided it. Play for your friends, those kind of things, right? Yeah. Okay, if you really want, and what do you want to do in music?
I'm not really sure. I originally went to school to be an educator, but the more I play, the more I'm like, I think I would miss it if I went entirely into teaching.
Well, I think the ideal mix is both. Yeah. And when you educate, you're going to have to communicate with people as well, right? So I think the next thing to really embrace for you is different styles of connection, especially those that make you uncomfortable. Because your role is not to make you comfortable. Your role is to make them comfortable. Do you think your attention's been on that so far?
No.
No. So and that goes against the nature of music. You've been protecting. In the posture, right? In the breathing, and in the inside. So can you think of a moment in your life where you were exploding, about to explode inside, but you look back and you're like, oh, that was one of my favorite moments? I remember the first time I had, I sat down with my now wife, and it was in France, and I went to have a Perrier. And I thought it was 20 minutes, it was actually 4.5 hours. And I must have peed like 7 times in the first 20 minutes. I was exploding inside. So often, uncomfortability is actually a form of beauty, right? And we have to learn, so what if, so far you've been resisting that exploding inside because someone told you that's a bad feeling. What's the good feeling? What if you embrace it? What if that's a form of love? That's the form of connection. These are just questions to think about. I'm gonna do a little playing before I can stop torturing you. So my last secret to share with you is I'm an extreme introvert. Ask Buddy. Ask anyone who sat with me in the room before we got here and thought I was probably a little off. No, I was doing my best. But up here is a different role. I'm not faking, I'm just choosing. So even extreme introverts can do anything you want. An extreme introvert, by the way, is the exact same position or superposition as an extreme extrovert. The quietest person in the room is exactly the same as the loudest. It's just that it's inverted. You get attention by being the quietest. Same as you get attention by being the loudest. And it's all okay. My lecture's over. You want to play a little more on the staccato?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish this guy just let me play. That's what I want you to copy. I love those last 3 articulations again. I think every one of those articulations is perfect. The first one was different than the subsequent. Why?
I don't know. I guess I was getting adjusted to the one on my
It's
face.
not a Joshua thing, it's a trumpet thing. Because first articulations are not the same as subsequent ones. Because the first one, you got to get the air moving, you got the sound moving. And the subsequent ones can ride on that sound and ride on that air. So what you're doing well is making the first one sound as close to possible as your subsequent ones. That's something you can continue doing. Now when we speed up, that's when we change the nature of everything, right? So part of what you were doing is the speed. You were going before, because we've been taught that. Versus where's it? See the difference in what it does to the tone? When you do it a run?
Like up
Any
to
other,
there.
I don't, anything you want. does that feel? More secure, less secure?
I mean, it felt more secure until I lost my spot on the page.
Great. Well, that's a different issue, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I like also how you're agreeing to let me kind of push you towards specificity. Right. So when you ask yourself, hey, I wonder how much I'm recording myself practicing. No, next time. I'm doing 4 practice sessions a day, and I'm recording myself in 2 of them for 10 minutes each. And I record at 30-second intervals, and I listen back immediately. That's recording, right? It's like if I ask one of my students, do you bathe? And I'm like, not as much as I should. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So recording is hygiene. It is, right? And then you'll feel less like people are telling you you're doing things, and you'll feel like, hey, I know I do this, I know I do this, I know I rush on fast notes, I know I drag on slow notes, I know I do here are my tendencies, here is my path to kind of study those. Nothing is a surprise. That's staccato. You have a wonderful tone. I like when you use your tone, less tongue, more tone. I like your adherence here. I like that you were open to being super uncomfortable in front of people. Because that, until now, that's basically what it's been. Fair?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you want to change it, there's a path forward. Okay. Any questions?
Not appropriate for right now, but I do have a question to ask you after this.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Great job. Who's next? No one wants to be next after what I just You have to say one more time.
Nina.
Nina.
I
Nice to meet you. You want to sit or stand?
was
All right.
I'm going to be playing Rhapsody in
Do
Blue.
they all know you?
Do they all know? Not all of them.
You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ninon. I'm going to be playing Rhapsody in Blue, just like the first page. I study at VCU with Rex Richardson. I'm a senior performance major. Yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Don't trip on the water bottle.
I hopefully won't.
Mind if I move it?
Yeah.
Do you know I have a recording out of this?
How is it?
I'll give you the link.
He says hi.
Play some more notes.
Yeah.
Nice sound. what is your experience with upper register?
I definitely struggled with a lot. I think it's gotten better lately, but it's still like.
I hear that you're doing a couple things and experimenting. And I also heard when I tuned into you, I heard the word struggle. Right. So let's let go of struggling with anything. Okay. Well, especially upper register. Not about power, it's about balance. Okay. And so when did you start trumpet?
I think I was like 10. I don't know.
Okay, so 11 years. So you are also an expert, right? Is it fair to say that everyone, when we started younger, we had smaller bodies? Then I'm going to logic trap you here, okay? And then with smaller bodies come smaller lungs. And we do our best, especially in the upper register, with the tools we have, which are small lungs. Right now, you're probably my height, so you probably have, I don't know, 5 or 6 liters of air, more than enough for high register. But we used to have like 3. So when we have 3, what we do is a really, really high K tongue where we get stuck in the throat. And what we do is pre-pressurize the air so we can get the upper pressures for those upper notes. It's kind of a sad subject for you so far. Let's make it a happy one, okay? So let's review what I would think are the 5 valves of pressure. Okay, the first one is the throat. Make that sound with me. Exhale. Right. Right. And technically, that's also the very, very, very bottom of the tongue, which is a very long organ. Right. Then the K tongue, which is. You're doing it right now to get into upper register. You're doing a bit of K tongue and a bit of the throat together. Right. That's 2. Then the third one is the middle of the tongue. Right. And the fourth is the S tip of the tongue. And the fifth is the aperture. And so you and I and everyone in the room has practiced for years a very nuanced combination of usually 2 of those and more for each note. When we learn young, we learn a certain sound for the upper register, and the only way to get that certain sound for the upper register, in your case that you've developed, is the right? And it doesn't quite match this really gorgeous resonant sound we have in the other registers. I can hear it, right? And then the frustration comes in, and we try harder with the tools we have, which is clamping down, right? So let's, first of all, we always have to honor how we got here to move forward, right? Like, I was talking with a couple of my colleagues right before we got in about it. I'm really happy at Arizona State, and it's my destination. This is where we've not settled, but this is where we wanted to be. And I am happy about everything else on the way, but not as happy, perhaps, as where I am now. So a way to look at maybe some of my previous destinations is with gratitude. It got me where I am. Right? So you got this far with the tools you have. Now we want to kind of readjust some of them so you can keep going, especially with rhythm. Right? Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things, and then we're going to start copying. I'm going to play a little more so I don't hurt myself. So that's a high F. What did it look like on my face? Okay. What did it look like on my face? Did I look like it was super strained? No. What do you notice?
There's not a lot of movement at all. It's really stable.
What do you notice about the tone?
It's good.
Now I'm playing with it. So, I mean, I have a jazz background first, but I'm not playing like I'm in the back of a big band going. I can do that. That's a different sound. So I'm playing with my classical sound, right? And that's what you want to do here, right? So it really starts. Here. That's the piece. So you can do that.
Okay.
And it's not a, I think you can, it's not a, I think it's first, so a lot of what I'm showing you now, and a lot of my teaching comes from David Federley, who is my best teacher ever. He's a truth player, and he taught me how to play differently once I was 30. So I'm going to show you the way of the farting fist. It's my own take on what he showed me, okay? I want you to, we thought about those 5 pressure points. I want you to do this. Breathe and sigh. Don't push, just sigh. Perfect sigh. It's not a push, right? Now I want you to make a seal, kind of a semi-seal on your fist, and sigh onto it. It's going to make a fart. I'm not pushing. That's pushing. Sigh. There we go. I let it go a little bit so it's just a little air is escaping. What do you notice here? Is your throat clenching anymore? Are you using a K-tongue? Just focus on the fist.
Yeah, I was still.
Still?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just release onto the fist. There we go. Right. A huge breath this time. There we go. No pushing, just release. So just the volume of the air at our more advanced stage of playing, right? In combination with a little impediment here creates the pressure. Right?
Yeah.
We know we need more pressure for higher notes. It's just a matter of where we create it in the system. If we create it back here, that means then much less volume reaches the embouchure. Then that means we have to clench the embouchure as well, and that's what's happening in your upper range. And you're losing sound, losing endurance, and losing consistency. And that's not a you issue, it's a trumpet technique issue. This is also emotional. This is frustrating. Yeah, okay. So the better you get at range, you're going to have to let the frustration out. Okay? That'll probably happen in the privacy of the practice room, but if you're like me, it'll be a lot of crying. Okay, so now we practice this way. And what I'm doing is I'm pretending that the mouthpiece is my fist. I'm not feeling the metal, I'm feeling my fist. Nice, and this time no tongue, and we're going to go. First the fist. Got it. Yeah, so what I hear in there is now there's less of a K, right? Can I see your instrument for a second? Let it be lower. Yeah, you're doing well. Right. So this is what we would call not an ideal sound, what I'm doing and what you're doing. And I'm not teaching you sound right now, I'm just teaching you technique. Right. So were you out of breath?
No.
Okay. Just do it so we're out of breath. We call this wasting air. And I'm completely out of breath, except for what I thought. Here you go. Let it be low. Nice. And how would you describe the difference in the vowel between those two sounds?
In the what?
The vowel.
Oh, vowel. It's like more open.
The second one's more open. How do you describe when you're teaching someone? How do you describe a more open vowel? Yeah, for me it's O. O or toe. So try to be a game show host and say, "Welcome to the big show."
Welcome to the big show.
That's it. There's a resonance in the O. Okay, so here I'm going to show you something. High range is predicated on low range. So I have a little faith here that we're going slow but fast. Show! So I'm keeping the vowel, and I'm releasing the sign.
Show.
inside the shaking? What do you notice?
It's more like
So sometimes to be in more control, we have to be willing to be in less control first. Copy? Good. Now we've got to the balance part. So do you hear that the tone can be a little lower? Can you push less,
Yeah.
release more? That's pushing more. Yeah. Just we're labeling it. Good. Let's go for a low C sound. Exactly what I just did. Right. So in order to get a high F sound that sounds like a low C, we have to start doing this. Release. More and more, once you get into the habit of breathing deeply. You've heard this most of your life, and you're choosing to breathe in a different way, in my experience. So how do we breathe deeply? Have you ever seen my warm-up show? Okay. So I'm going to show you how to breathe deeply. Breathe in normally. Breathe in normally. Through your mouth. Okay. Feel the air rush in? Great. Now, you can all do this with me. Take your hand. We're going to create an imaginary second mouth in the palm of our hand. Don't look. Okay. Grow extra lips. Feel them growing. Grow extra teeth. An extra tongue. The tongue extends down the throat. That is the wrist. Start breathing in through that mouth. Tilt that mouth down. Go like this. Maybe you can even feel that the air is making those lips dry, and that maybe that saliva is starting to drip on the floor. Keep breathing in through that mouth. Just imagine it. Yeah? We're imagining all the time, so what's weird about this one, right? So take that mouth and glue it on the small of your back. Leave it there. Now breathe in through both mouths at the same time. Oh, what happened? Expansion. You feel the expansion. Put one in your belly. Three mouths. 1, 2, 3. Different. One in your head, two on your feet. In through your head, out through your feet. Elongates the body. Right? The body doesn't understand English, or German, or Spanish, or French, or Chinese. That's linguistic. The body understands somatic. This is somatic. Okay? Extra mouth. So breathe. Which ones resonated with you more? Just now, which extra mouths?
Extra mouth. Probably the one.
Okay, try the one in the back and the one in your head and here. Nice. Sigh, play. Breathe in through three mouths. Sigh, play. Good. Again here. There we go. Right. And for a second we had a super deep tone, and then you went. A second is better than nothing. Tell me what your tongue and your jaw do. Nice. Goes down. Now, and tell me what your tongue and jaw do. Go up. Okay. This time I want you to go down both times. That was up. Big breath. There you go.
I just felt it like that.
Yes. Better. That was kind of neutral. Right? So this is the kind of slow work I want you to do, because to ascend, basically what we're doing when we do this work is that you have a very nuanced and successful set of vowels. You're employing a lot of that early in your register. So by the time you get to the F around the top of the staff, your K is this high. But we need to go an octave higher, but there's no room for that K to operate anymore. The shape is perfect. You have a gorgeous sound. So how do we do it? We just spend less of that currency. So I want you to not be here for that F. I want you to be here for that F, here for the high F, here for your super C. That's where the super C is. Okay? And you're like, oh, I'll never hit it. Not with that technique, but with the one I'm showing you. Yeah. Yeah. So the way to get there is down, down. So I'm lowering my tongue and conceptually lowering my tongue, lowering my jaw. The same way as when I descend. This is a stamp thing. Descend as you ascend. Show me that. Nice. Yes. Do you hear that sound? Yeah. Now you have to bake that in. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Okay. You looked a little unsure.
No, I'm just nervous.
Oh, well, you're doing well for being nervous. Good. Down each time. Good. Better? Nice. Aha, right. So now you can't use the squeeze there, so you're
Yeah.
going to have to use. Yeah. The breath is super important because if we don't have the volume to back up, then what happens is then we're just going to constrict the throat again of the balloon to make the pressure. Right? And then we're going to have to move on to something else. Nice. What does that compare to your normal F sound?
It's more
Open, yeah. Now how about effort?
it's easy.
Easier. So what I'm hearing is the more beautiful I play, the easier it gets. Yeah. Yeah. So when you're encountering difficulty, whatever it is, am I playing beautifully enough? Am I focusing on tone? So what we've done, everyone so far is focused on tone as promised, right? So what you noticed in my tone was I ascended, was I still aspired to be beautiful, right? Like a dolce sound. Okay, there was the decision not to sound like that. You catch it? Okay, let's leave that behind. Same technique and same thing. Huge breath. E. That's an old huge breath. Use the new technique. You're doing well. Just need some reminding and then getting upset. Yeah, because this is usually where it fails. Well, not anymore. Okay. Okay. 3 mouth breath. Down, 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 down.
Sorry. You want
Great
that?
tone. Did you hear all that? Like that's even. So that's a huge win already. So it's not a can't. Is it? It's not an ability thing. This is where usually the emotions come. Like you start realizing, oh, I can. It was just this button, not that button. That was it. You asked a question?
No. You went from the C to F.
I just want to scale it. Yeah, you can go. Or you can go any way you want. I just want you to approach it and keep going down. Huge breath, 3 mouth breath. Sigh, release. That's an old breath. Just identify. That's an old tight breath, bracing for something difficult, which results in something difficult, right? Okay. You can leave it behind and do what I'm showing you. Doing well. 3 mouth breath only. Great. So, just breathe. Just breathe. No trumpet. Just breathe. There we go. There we go. Okay. Back to trumpet. Okay, now what do you notice?
There's tension.
Well, yeah, because it's a higher note. So compared to before,
It sounds really good. It sounds like scratching.
great. And then how about the effort level compared to your old technique? How much easier?
Significant amount of
Give it a percentage. Is it 10% easier? Is it 20? Is it 50?
25.
Great. So you're telling me in 10 minutes or 15 minutes you improved your efficiency by 25%? Okay. thing? Is it a you thing, or is it just technique? Just technique, right? So this is what I was talking about. That when we are faced with these kind of impediments in technique, and no one's showed it to us yet in a way we understand, we tend to believe it's about a self limitation. I'm not good enough, and we start expressing that through the horn, right? And this is not in alignment with music. I'm not good enough, or I need to be good enough, and that's the trap. We both fell in it. We'll fall in it again, right? You have any questions about how to pursue this in your practice?
No. Can I potentially email you in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you did really well. Really well. Did you hear? Like, that's a tremendous amount of improvement, and it's not me. It's all you. Please don't go away from thinking this. Well, the only way I could do that is Burgstaller. I don't know anything. I'm just passing along what people told me. Okay? And that works for you. So more of that, plus patience. Because this is patience. Like, we went really slow, excruciatingly slow. It was only 15 minutes for 25%. Now you have to do that on a regular basis. That equals consistency. So down, drop the jaw, drop the tongue, down, 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 breathe. And then add in the scaffolding, right? And pretty soon, okay? Great job. It's fine with me as long as it's fine with everyone else.
Yeah.
Is there a restroom I could use really quickly?
What's that?
Is there a restroom down here I can use, or I need to go upstairs?
Which downstairs people is this?
Oh, wow. My,
It's right there. It's literally right there.
no one follow me in the restroom. If you're
Feels good to be back in the Midwest.
Yeah. Where'd you go for your undergrad?
Millikan University in
Nice.
Decatur, Illinois.
And you're gonna play?
I'll be playing a movement of Cecilia McDowell's Framed, Winter Landscape with Skaters.
There's skaters involved?
I mean, in the painting.
Oh, this is have a seat, so weird because one of my former students just texted me, she was on the U.S. national figure skating team.
That's
Lori.
so cool.
I can't pronounce her married name there, but she was also the sound designer for 30 Rock. Remember 30 Rock, that show with 30 Rock? And, sorry, it's skating, and that's so weird. Like, you don't have to say, that's just, if you want to stand, go ahead. I just didn't want to
I can see.
start a story and make you stand. Isn't that cool?
That is pretty cool.
Great. Beautiful. Let's stop there and keep working. So tell us your experience.
I think I was thrown by that. I kind of forgot to play a few notes beforehand, just to get
Oh, that was my fault.
acclimated.
Yeah.
Also my fault too. But
I assumed that went on when I was indisposed. Sorry.
That's fine. But I think one of my overarching goals with this movement and this piece is to keep projecting even at the specificity of the dynamics.
You're just making fun of me now because I can't say that word. Or...
And I think I accomplished that pretty well. Always putting like my sound first and like filling the room with my sound, most importantly.
Great. You're shaking a little bit.
Yeah.
Does that normally happen? Or...
So I've dealt with performance anxiety a lot. It's something that I've always dealt with, and now it's sort of, I've been able to handle like the anxiety part, and now it's like learning how to manage the adrenaline that just comes with performing.
Yeah.
Is something that I'm still kind of working out.
What are your strategies?
To like, for me, it's like remembering that a lot of those symptoms are the same from like anxiety, but like being able to separate like the mentality of the two. Like, even though my heart may race and my hands may shake, it's not from like a fight or flight, it's from like excitement. And just like remembering that at the end, like at the precipice of all that, like I am excited to play.
Great.
And I'm excited to share and create.
Well, I congratulate you. I mean, you're doing really well because you were able to keep going and sound great whilst shaking. I wonder, maybe my prescription to you is going to sound cliche, perform more. Except, have you ever busked?
No.
Ah. Why? Did you ever consider it?
No.
Ah. So is there a quad at UMC Greensboro?
Mhm.
Yeah, there is. I've been there. That's your prescription. Once the summer heat goes down.
Yeah.
Go out, during lunch hour and play etudes, but not for musicians, for normal people. Yeah. Get used to performing. I think from this point on for you, it's just repetition, right? Because how many times do you get to do what you just did,
Yeah.
right? So if we want to get better at something, we have to do it. And if we're waiting for those opportunities, then we're learning on the job. So if I were you and you can stand it with the weather, then I would go outside and practice there. Not in the music building, but and full runs. But you'll find by and large people will ignore you. You'll get some fans. Hopefully not a ticket from the campus police, but
Yeah.
you'll deal with that when it comes to that, right? And then you bring that experience back here or back to your, Remember that this experience is inversed. If you're a teacher or performer, you don't go out and teach and perform for other teachers and performers. You do that for normal people. So this is weird. Wonderfully, beautifully weird, but it's not what you're preparing for. So my prediction is the more you do what you're preparing for performing for real people, then you'll accelerate into comfortability that you'll like.
Yeah.
And you'll have to manage them less. And that elusive transmutation of that energy into that giving, sharing thing will happen more versus like, regardless, you did really well.
Thank you.
You're playing, you stated you want to fill the room. That's not quite happening. You're staying within kind of one dynamic level. I heard hints of really extroverted phrase making. I would prefer it all to be extroverted.
Okay.
Let's work at the beginning. Just play, let's say like the first 8 bars. Good. So we need to try that, right? So when we have melody, then I would say that the longer notes often were taught kind of like we were taught the beginning of the notes. We're taught that attaining the faster notes is the goal, and the longer notes, which is waiting for the next pass. Right? Versus, I think the most line has to, well, often I like to think of like the most line has to be in the fast notes, but also the slow notes. So here's what I want to hear in the slow notes. It has to go somewhere. You're doing this. Okay. Did you feel like you did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you do? Do you feel like it? Probably felt like quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10.
Maybe like a 5.
Okay. I'm showing you something called an inner outer. You need someone else or you need a recording device for this. On the outer, it came out to 0.5 or a 1. So this is something we hear a lot, that we have to overdo things on stage. We have to overdo things. So I'd rather tell you less line versus more line. Okay? Again. That was a 1. That was a 2, but I hear you kind of pressing on the sound and crescendo versus spinning through,
Okay.
which is part of the line, right? Can we, what's the time signature?
4.
Okay. Very good. So make it into 8. spin and direction there. So think that play was on the page. It's kind of more what you used to do. Let's go A and B it. Eighths again, and then immediately afterwards. Again. There's about 4. Give me what you think is 30. Great. A, B it. Now what's on the page? Good. So as you're determining how to give direction in a note, there's so many different variables and we can do that, right? So we can think of what I just showed you as kind of it's not really eighth notes. We could call that subdividing rhythm, but I prefer to think of it as subdividing phrasing, right? When you go back to your long note, you're really pressing on the tone, which is a way to do to add some direction. I don't think it's as effective though. Here's what you're doing. So I'm also using a little bit of vibrato, which is a form of movement. Try that. Good. So you'll experiment with that. Same thing. Keep going. Show me the first 8 measures again. Good. So it's let's read it. So our job when we play a piece of music that's new for other people is take them through a guided tour, right? So my first 2 anchor points for the phrase they're predicated on this. Right? So I want to kind of make those the tent poles here. So my audience knows that, oh, this is familiar, and then once it's familiar, it goes different than me, right? So saying that, can I play it for you and maybe you can hear what I'm talking about? So what do you hear?
That there's direction to those anchor points, moving to and from.
Great. Now what does direction mean to you though?
Like a spin of the sound. Like there's forward momentum.
Give me like 4 more things. So we've got one thing you could do. Think about your own vocabulary, how you show direction. So one is spin.
Dynamic.
Right?
Color.
Yeah.
We talked about vibrato.
And some of these things elude us when we try to think about vocabulary, right? Because language just doesn't do music justice. Right? So think about varying that. Show me your own version of that, but I want you to show me the most extroverted phrase directions you can. It's really nice and it's conservative. Our job is not conservative. Yeah. Our job, if you want to come across conservative, which is necessary, we don't want to always be, but if you want to come across conservative, you're going to have to give me 60% more than that.